Sandra Ziegler for Laura Mack, joined by Lieutenant Ray Mendoza. He is the Public Information Officer for the Lubbock Police Department. Hey, thanks for rolling out and coming in with us, man.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Okay, first of all, you got some things that were happening. When I came back from Galveston late on Saturday evening, I was rolling down Quaker, and they had that all blocked off over there. Had that vehicle pedestrian accident. What details do we have at this time? Because I know that you don't have all the information.
Yeah, there was a 2007 Toyota FJ traveling northbound on Quaker Avenue. Had a green light, and there was a pedestrian attempting to cross Quaker Avenue, and he was struck and killed there at the intersection.
I see people during the day, crossing right there, and they're kind of, I wouldn't say they're jaywalking the intersection, but they're running across traffic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's people with kids, that are just
scares me. Yeah.
And I don't get it now. There was a guy who used to work here a long time ago, Don Sitton, that worked at KFYO, and he would. When KFYO was where Hayashi sits, man, that guy was blind. And he would walk across Quaker in the middle of the day. I don't get it.
Heavens.
Anyway, then also this morning, this one's not even really out yet, but you guys had a standoff at 1510 Avenue R in the Mecca Apartments. What was going on over there?
Yeah, the patrol officers responded to a civil disturbance call. When they got there, the guy was walking in and out of his apartment armed with a handgun. At the time, we didn't know that he had actually discharged that firearm, but they surrounded him, gave him verbal commands to drop the weapon. Initially, he refused. At one point, even pointing the firearm at the officers. Luckily, the officers were behind cover and were able to finally convince him to drop the weapon and surrender, and that ended peacefully.
No shots fired by the LPD?
Not by LPD, no. The suspect did discharge the firearm in the apartment and through the adjoining walls of the apartments, and so they're out there investigating at this point.
Wow. Okay, now, big news over the weekend. Chief Ellis had been reassigned. I guess you could also say that was a demotion when you go from chief to a captain. Now, I know that there are several different things that are on the burner where people could try and connect the dots, Sandra. Mm-hmm. Because I think Chief Ellis had applied to Texas Tech University, for a position for their police force. Then also the DOJ has alleged discriminatory practices for testing and physical testing, saying that it's discriminatory against women and Hispanics. And then also there's the issue where there's some controversy swirling around the crime line and the awarding of $10,000 to a person of interest, before the body of Marquis Sasaga had been identified, 3 days before he'd been scientifically identified. So it's just like, a trifecta of like, wow. I mean, can you make some sense of that for us? I mean, I know at this point you don't even have a lot of information because the demotion was a surprise to you.
Yes, the demotion was completely a surprise to a lot of us, and so I really don't have any other information. I know what you know and what's been reported as well.
A lot of people sit there and think that the police chief works for the mayor or the city council. Not so.
Not so.
So who actually is in charge of the police and the functioning of the police department?
That would be the city manager. The chief of police answers to the city manager of Lubbock. Which
would be at this James Loomis?
Yes.
Okay, now this is interesting, Sandra, because, we know that Loomis is a short timer. Mm-hmm. In other words, he's retiring. We asked him to stay here, and, he has agreed to stay here for a period of time. So, you would think a lot of times people, they get into a situation where they're in departure or a planned departure, and then they don't necessarily step up to the pump and grab a bull by the horns, but I don't think that's the case here with Loomis,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I would love to see the text of the letter from the Department of Justice, and exactly what they're pointing to, because, are they just looking at the statistics of who's been hired and who was interviewed over a few hiring cycles? Because, the end result doesn't prove an intention to discriminate. Given what this Department of Justice is and who's in it, I'm highly suspicious of any charge that they would bring against our police department.
Okay, Ray,
but that's my own personal commentary.
Here's the thing. The thing is relative the Department of Justice and their allegations. They're saying that there's a disparity between, test scores between white people and Hispanic people. Okay, and they're also saying that there's a disparity between the success rates of the physical testing at the police academy. But aren't these models and methodologies that are used by the OPD third-party driven and also used by other cities around the state and country?
That is correct. We're not the only ones that are subscribing to these methods, and the exact same tests given through other departments as well.
Well, they point to the fact that only 37% of women had passed the physical exam, or I guess the physical part of the exam, when an estimated 81% of men had passed the test. I don't find it hard to imagine as a woman that a test for a police officer would be physically demanding, and it's not hard for me to imagine as a woman that most men are stronger than most women. But now those kinds of comments are really not allowed anymore these days, even though they're objective fact. So yeah, I'm really excited to get more information about these charges because they sound ridiculous.
Well, I also understand what Sandra's saying about, strength issues between men and women. But the thing is there are men that have failed the physical part and women who have passed the physical part.
That's correct. These are standard tests. They know what they're going to be doing beforehand. And so it's kind of difficult to understand what the Department of Justice is trying to say in their findings.
Now, there's something else that I wanted to ask about, and this may be a little bit random, and I don't know if this was in our academy or if this was something that I read somewhere else. About there was a woman who had made application that had a gun tattooed on her face that was refused. Was that an RPD or no?
I wouldn't have any information on that, Tom. I don't know that was our department or not.
I would. That's kind of a weird situation,
right?
Because would you be comfortable with an officer, a man or woman, having a gun tattooed on their face?
No, for a number of reasons.
But it's a tattoo.
Really, you're not used to seeing that. You're used to public officials having different standards for what you can and cannot wear. I know, just in a business, you have some different standards about what your employees can or cannot display, if they can have tattoo. So I don't think you would be used to seeing a police officer with a tattoo, number one. So it might cause me to question, is this actually a police officer or somebody posing as a police officer? But secondly, it's a little scary to have somebody with a weapon that has a picture of a weapon on their face.
Okay, well, I know.
A little strange.
I know a long time ago when I was a kid, and even when I was out here, a lot of times you'll see people that are older. A lot of men that had been in military service, let's say the Marine Corps, may have a USMC, on their forearm.
True.
Or something like that. Mm-hmm. But now I think the policies in our PD and other PDs are you can have tattoos, but they can't be visible.
That's correct. There is a clause in there that for our policy that if you came in with the tattoos, you were grandfathered in. But a few years ago, they changed that policy where you can't have any more tattoos exposed. So if you do, you'll have to have them covered up.
Yeah. All right, Lieutenant Ray Mendoza, Public Information Officer, Lubbock Police Department. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Have a good day.